The latest installment, Martin and Marlow, Kirkwood Conversation. It's Chuck, and we are in your backyard. You didn't go to Kirkwood High School, but Janie Mae might?
I think she's going to. We have North Glendale Elementary School very close to where we live. So
is this a live read for North Glendale?
You know, I do have a live read for Kirkwood Pizzeria.
Not far from here.
I'll just tease it right now. I'll talk more in depth, but because it's a home game for me at Kirkwood High School, beautiful field, beautiful facilities, I do want to talk about Kirkwood Pizzeria a little later, after we get into the meat of this conversation, which I don't know what that is yet.
As a multimedia journalist, Charlie will go out at any given time during a normal world and grab some highlights of a prep sporting event. But I would say 9 times out of 10, it was usually in a certain radius. So I'd get a text over at Fox 2 at like 6:30, and Charles like, dude, what do you think? Kirkwood volleyball tonight? I'm like, oh, sounds good. And they say, hey, I had an idea. What about Nearings lacrosse? Like, all in your wheelhouse. And suddenly he's like, I got North Glendale kids playing kickball. What do you think?
Let me say this, though.
To be fair.
Now, look, I went to public school in Toledo, Ohio. So I'm very cognizant, though, because we know this, working in sports. Look, people are passionate about their high schools. A lot of parents complain if we don't get to their schools. So we do try our very best to get into Illinois, as much as Missouri as we can, private schools, public schools, you got county schools, city schools. We all try our best to spread it out. But yes, sometimes if I'm home and there's a nice game at Kirkwood or Webster, and I know it's about 7 minutes away, I mean, that is pretty convenient.
Chuck's like, what about Mary Queen of Peace recess? the kids are at recess right now.
Hey, it's funny. Pizza day.
Now
I can go over there.
Hold on, I say this, and I showed video the other night of kickball. The kids playing kickball, and people love it.
Right
Danny
now,
Mac retweeted my kickball coverage.
Right now, there's no sports. People want to see something. This is day, 120 of really no sports. We're out of ideas. Kickball's fine. Disc golf. Show me anything, and I'll watch.
The 4th has come and gone. Inside reports, Cousin John claimed there were fireworks from your neighborhood. Is that fake news?
It's not fake news. Is it just me, or is this year just more fireworks than you've ever experienced in your entire life? The day before, now I think it was the street over, had an unbelievable display that looked like it was the city of St. Louis's display. And then on July 4th, I don't want to say which neighbor because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I don't even know the rules. But anyway, awesome fireworks display, basically right on my cul-de-sac on July 4th and the day before as well. And I feel like it was just fireworks nonstop for a week in St. Louis.
I heard Andy Banker had a report last week, and he said fireworks sales are up 300%. And sometimes you hear a number, and I'm like, well, how do they know that? Like, how do you know that for sure? But that night, just walking around our neighborhood, we didn't go anywhere. We walked around the block. And I said, oh, look over there. No, look over. Massive fireworks that are clearly from somebody's backyard. So I don't dispute. Of course, I would never challenge Andy Banker's reporting, but clearly fireworks sales were way up. So happy belated 4th. Before we get into the meat of the show, which we will, of course, Martin and Marlow episode, whatever it is.
7?
I think
maybe
that's right.
7?
Favorite number 7 of all time. Go.
I mean, it's got to be Mickey Mantle, right?
Yeah. I was hoping to have a different answer than that.
Is there even an equal to Mickey Mantle for number 7?
Was Pete Mayer? No, he was 44. God, this
number 7. It's a great number. I do think I've always thought that for the way numbers look on jerseys, 7's beautiful. 3 looks great. I was always a big 33 person because I loved Jose Canseco as a kid. You had Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen. 3s and 7s look really good on jerseys.
I threw that out there. Why I'm on 7?
Holiday wore it for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Did he wear it? Wait.
He had 17, and then he went to 7.
Because he's from Oklahoma, I'm pretty sure he said it was a way to honor Mickey Mantle. And he even said, look, I don't think I'm Mickey Mantle. If I can be half the player Mickey Mantle was, that was good for me. Didn't they originally give him 15, and then he switched because it was Edmonds? Maybe?
Yes. All of that sounds right. We'll look it up, and then when we tweet this out, we'll say, and then people can tweet, you freaking idiots. You forgot so-and-so, so-and-so. But before we get to the meat of it, episode 7 here, we believe, Martin Marlow. And make sure you subscribe. It's on YouTube. You can sign up for that. It's on Spotify. You can sign up for that. I'm not sure the Google account or the Anchor. I'm not sure how it all works, but wherever you go, you can find one of these outlets will work for you. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way it's delivered each and every week. So before we get to the meat of everything, when is it too early for a service call? Now, I bring this up. We had some wood that was damaged, and then they had a claim adjuster, and then a specialist had to come. So he says, I'll be there on Friday between like 8 and 9. I said, that's fine. At 6:15, I have a phone call, and I'm like, what number is that? I didn't answer it. Then they send a text. Hey, Martin, running a little early. My first appointment canceled. Can I come now? And honest to God, it was, by the time I responded, it was 6:30. And Kim is like, what are you doing? And I said, this guy's coming to look at the floor. And she said, at 6:30? Should I? But it's an insurance claim, and I wanted it to go smoothly. I didn't want any problems. So I said, no problem. We're raring to go. Of course, I'm up. No problem. Come on over. And then your hair's standing straight up, and you're like, oh, fumbling for coffee. Am I wrong? That's a little early.
Little early. I feel like the other day I had an air conditioning appointment. It was the first call of the day. It was right at 8, and I feel like that was fine. 6:15 feels early. I mean, you can't obviously do the lawn cutting that early because the neighbors are going to be ticked off. My concern is more on accuracy of time. I wouldn't care if it was 6:15 if you told me that. What bothers me is when they give you the window of 8 to 2. And it always is at 2, unless you want it to be at 2, and then it's at 8. It's just never at a time that's convenient for you.
Yeah, if this guy had said the night before, I know this is crazy or it's early, do you mind? I would have said no problem. But it was, hey, can I come now? And I'm like, what day is it? I don't even know what day it is. The meet is going to be about baseball trying to come back amid COVID. As we sit here now and we're taping, a lot of testing issues. The Nationals have said, we can't even practice today. The Cardinals are moving theirs back. We're not sure if that's testing related, but there's been complaints or issues around the league. And it gets us to the Keith Olbermann guarantee, I guess. I saw him on the Dan Patrick Show saying, I hope I'm wrong, but he said, I don't think any of these leagues are going to make it. Do you think baseball will, in fact, happen?
Yes, I disagree with Mr. Olbermann. Huge fan of his back in the day, of course, with Dan Patrick. That's the reason I got into this business, watching those two on SportsCenter.
What's the reason you're getting out of the business?
Oh, lots of reasons. That's podcast number 8. That's the meat of podcast number 8. I just think all these leagues, they've gone to such lengths to even start phase 2 or 3, whatever it is, in the different sports in terms of actually having camps. And I know the Blues now have reportedly 4 guys and a coach, and the Cardinals, what we know is 3, I believe. And there could be more, because I'm just guessing. And the thing that stinks about this is we all have to speculate, but everybody else is speculating. So you just got to think, if there were some players, for example, on that Dominican flight that tested positive, they do the contact tracing, they say, hey, you were next to this person, he has it, you need to be tested. So I totally get why they're holding other people out if that's the reason. I apologize if that's not the reason, but this is the nature of how we're talking about sports during COVID. We still have, 18-ish days before the season starts? I mean, I think if 6 guys have it and it's 2 days before opening day, I would worry then. But I just think fans need to understand that this is going to be a different year. Opening day starts, you might not have everybody. And guys might be delayed. You might see 5-inning starts, or you might see piggyback situations because all the teams are dealing with this. I do think we're going to have sports, though, and I actually think baseball is one of the safer sports where you're not like hockey and basketball where you're right up against each other. I would worry most in baseball about the home plate umpire sweating on the catcher, honestly, with the droplets that you read about. I think we're actually going to have sports. It doesn't surprise me, these types of numbers. I would be more surprised if they were double or triple these types of numbers.
It does lead to the awkward reporting because we're all guilty of it. We're all like, ooh, look who's not out there today. I haven't seen in a couple of days. And then the teams, they can't say anything unless the player allows them to say it. So you get these sort of vague answers all the time. It really is. It's a strange world, especially trying to cover it down there and report on baseball because you feel stupid that, we've got 3 COVID-19 positive tests. Hey, who's going to hit cleanup? It just at times feels really stupid trying to talk baseball. But at the same time, we're being responsible. Hopefully the world, more people are responsible, do the right thing, stay healthy and safe. But you also don't, and that is important, and you won't stop talking about that stuff. But you don't want to be part of the panic police. Oh, my God, they've got a positive. Oh, they've got 2. Did you hear the so-and-so now has 3? When the reality is it's going to happen. People are going to be positive unless you have a major outbreak. And I think we're walking that line. And in the media, I don't want to be that person that's always shaming somebody or saying, oh my God, did you hear what happened? And I call it the panic police, which is different than accurate and proper reporting.
Look, and look what happened with the Blues. I understand there's a lot of people probably, you read the Jim Thomas article, we all love JT, and he said it could have been traced to this bar in Clayton and guys going out. And when that happens, people say, oh, they're not being responsible and all that. I went on a vacation last week, and we socially distanced at the beach, but I went out to dinner a couple times, and again, we were all socially distanced, but if I tested positive or a family member, are people going to look at me and say I'm a total a-hole? Maybe that's true. I do think that when some of these big-time athletes go out there and get it, in a weird way, it's a good example to everyone else that everybody can get this. If these young, healthy 20-something athletes can get it just from being at a bar, or read the post of Freddie Freeman's wife, basically said, this dude did everything right. Only family coming over. Never went out to dinner the last 4 months, and he still has it. He's a guy that never gets sick, his wife said, and it's messing with him. I do think that, in a weird way, is a good example for everybody else that, look, we're not over this. We need to chill. Yeah, we have to have a semblance of normal life, but to have sports, we also need these athletes to be responsible, because even if they're asymptomatic, if 5 guys on a team have it during the season for a hockey team, for example, that's just going to wipe them out.
And the fact that hockey players went to bars, I'm shocked by this. All of that said, being at Busch Stadium, I was there Friday, you were there Saturday, it did feel kind of normal or fun for a second. I mean, we're sports guys who've had nothing to cover or to really talk about other than, labor strife, things like that. To actually see somebody swinging and hitting at a baseball, wearing a Cardinal uniform, I don't get that nostalgic about baseball or write sonnets about the game and its meaning to the world. But it did kind of feel cool to be back in there just because everything's been so fucked up for so long. It felt kind of normal.
Yeah, I was there Saturday for July 4th, and not being around baseball since...
We get it. You worked the holiday. Okay, well, extra pay.
Well, no, it's exposure in the market. Yeah. I've been here 12 years, but when you get to work a holiday and everybody gets to watch you, because they're home, obviously, and there's not a lot to do, so I know a lot of the viewers were watching me, so that's great. But not watching baseball since spring training, yeah, I did miss it, walking into Busch, and it was a beautiful day. And I took this picture... #bless. For the first time in my life, I actually have a good phone. I have an iPhone 11, just because the video shoots so well, you can air it on TV even. But I took this picture of the backdrop with the arch in downtown St. Louis at Busch Stadium, and honest to God, you joke about sonnets and all that, it looked freaking beautiful. And I tweeted that out, and I've looked at it almost every day because the picture is honestly just beautiful. The ballpark is empty, but downtown St. Louis looks fantastic. It's sunny. You got the blue sky and some clouds and the backdrop and the arch, and it looked awesome. Even if there's no fans for these games, I can't wait for some baseball games.
And I'm not an architect, but I think the hotel that used to be the Millennium, that circular one that's to the right field, right center area, it was the Stofers back in the day. The restaurant on top used to spin around. It was in 1985, Cousin John and I drank beers there after Game 5 of the World Series with all the Royals players. He was a little older than me. Somehow I was a senior in high school, and we're just in the corner, and there's Willie Wilson. Dick Hauser was still alive, George Brett. The Royals were like just hanging out at the bar. So I'll always be fond of that building. And they had the winter warm-up there many years, but it's been sitting empty for a long time. And I'm sorry, if you take that baby, it may need to go, and because it's blocking the view of the arch from Busch Stadium. We need to have some development there. Maybe it's a continuation of the arch, grounds. I'm not sure. I'm not a developer. But if you're looking at that view you're talking about, which is spectacular. I think that's the one thing I would tweak if I could take that out. That's just a architectural thought for the audience. I also believe for games, if people want to go, I think people are going to be all over downtown when there's a game. The old days, the knothole, even your dad back in the day, they'd go to games and kind of just look through the wall of the building. I think a lot of people are going to just be lined up outside. And the only seats that are technically available would be those rooftop seats. And that Budweiser brew house, those things are going to be like gold.
How about also, I just thought of this, Riverport. What are we calling that now? Hollywood Casino, Amphitheater. Now, I don't know if they have one huge monitor, but you go there for concerts and they have several big monitors if you have seats back. I just think, even though there's not going to be fans in the stands, at least at the beginning, and I think these owners, if they can, towards the end of the season, will try to get some fans in there. I just think there's so many opportunities for venues and bars to spread people out and still watch Cardinals games and Blues games, because people will still want to watch these games and go out. They want to do it in a safe way, but there's a million bars across St. Louis and restaurants, and I think it'd be cool if you have different ways to make it fun, to kind of feel like you're at the ballpark, but you're at a bar or restaurant watching the game in a safe way with a bunch of Cardinals and Blues fans.
Martin and Marlow brought to you by Triad Bank, located in Frontenac, St. Louis-based bank that opened in 2005. So if you're a small business owner and you're trying to get things done, especially in this weird economy now, you want to be dealing with a bank that's St. Louis-based because the decisions are made here. They're not calling somebody in New York or L.A. St. Louis-based Triad Bank in Frontenac, Clayton Road, or on the web. It's triadbanking.com. They helped a lot of their customers navigate through this weird pandemic with PPP and just dealing with government paperwork. I know that Jim Regna himself personally involved, so make sure you check out our friends at Triad Bank. And then Marie DeVilla Senior Living over the 4th of July. How about this? A resident turned 107 years old. A resident at Marie DeVilla, and just because Fred always knows how to do it. Fred Wiesenhan, they had a band roll up, play the music, great coverage on Fox 2. Marie DeVilla Senior Living since 1960. They're at the corner of Clayton and Weidman Road. Get online, take a virtual tour today, tomorrow, whenever, if you're looking for senior living. And Charles, we're not far from Kirkwood Pizzeria.
Kirkwood Pizzeria. We got it. Was it Friday night? We got it Friday night. It was really good. We always go half meat lovers, half veggie lovers. We also get the wings. I love the wings. Kirkwood Pizzeria, 314-822-3488, 471 North Kirkwood Road. Give my guy Carl a call and feed your family the 16-ounce house special. Check this out. Pepperoni, sausage, salami, mushrooms, onions, black olives, jalapenos. You can also customize this to your own liking. So you get the 16-inch house special, 12-inch cheese pizza, large house salad, cheese garlic bread, all for $35 at Kirkwood Pizzeria, 314-822-3488. They've been open this whole time, and they've set it up perfectly. All the options, curbside, drop-off, hands-free. They'll take care of you at Kirkwood Pizzeria.
All right, because it's been the pandemic, sports haven't been going on, we have a lot of time for the third-hour topic. Radio, we'd always get accused of the third-hour topic when you just get too random, and we did in like the second hour or the first hour. And you can email topics to the show, martinandmarlow@gmail.com, martinandmarlow@gmail.com. One of these weeks we'll read. It's like the text line. I would always say, text in. Then you didn't read any of the text.
Email. Let me ask you this. You set up the email. Have you already forgotten the password?
I think it's attached to my phone, so I don't have to reopen it. But third-hour topic, and sometimes these just pop in my head, but TV shows of our youth. And you're a young guy, not as much as you, but still younger than me.
38.
Different era. But for me, I'm talking about 8 to 12 years old. And it seemed like it was all cop shows. I mean, I lived for Beretta, and he was, Robert Blake, he's had some hiccups since his days as Beretta. But my wheelhouse was Beretta, Starsky and Hutch, Charlie's Angels. That was the ladies, and they did the investigating. And then there was just ridiculous, and this is a little bit before my time, but I caught some of it. They were all cop shows. They were all kind of like private detectives, but they had a gun. There was a show called Cannon, William Conrad, and he weighed 300 pounds. And he drove a giant Lincoln Town Car, like that your great uncle would have or something. But he would hunt these guys down with this little pistol. He'd get out and chase them. You got to go back and watch this because it's not plausible that the 300-pound guy in the town car could go on the car chase, run down people. But any kind of cop show, I was just riveted to. And then when I was, I think, pretty young, I told my mom I was going to be a truck driver, which is why I always tell Strick I'm thinking about it, MTC. There was a show called Moving On, and it was just a truck driver out on the road, a little before BJ and the Bear came along. But those are the shows that really, they formed me, Chuck. And The White Shadow, of course. You're younger than that, but you probably caught it at some point.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, though, about non-cartoon shows. Because you're talking 8 to 12. I love G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man. I kind of always watch what my older brother watched as well. He's about 2.5 years older than me. And then we get into actually shows with actors. I think if you're my age, you loved Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell lasted for, I feel like, almost a decade if you take into account Saved by the Bell, the college years. There's a couple different versions. I think every guy my age was absolutely in love with Tiffany Amber Thiessen, with Kelly Kapowski. You also had the Friday night kind of scary shows on Nickelodeon. I think it was called Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like those Goosebumps type shows. You know, I didn't do my research. I didn't really think this one through, Martin. Saved by the Bell is the obvious
But
one.
that's your age group.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge, like, people talk about it. I didn't get that. I was already kind of moved on at that point. But what about shows that were older than all of us, but because of cable, like I'd come home from school and watch the Brady Bunch. I'd watch the Munsters. I mean, but those were not on Addams Family. When I was a kid, those shows had long since passed. But thanks to, like, TBS, you'd come home from school and just park it.
Yeah, and that's where I think watching with my dad, and my dad, he's always been an old soul, and he's 71 now, but you had Nickelodeon, you had Nick at Night. He loves watching his shows like Honeymooners. We would watch Honeymooners because it's on Nick at Night. Rockford Files was arguably his favorite show. So I remember more watching those shows with him than some of the shows actually that were out when I was young.
Rockford Files, an omission on my part, Rich Gould's all time. I believe his phone ring might even be the Rockford Files theme music. Random topics, Chuck, that's what we do because we're waiting for sports, and as we sit here at Kirkwood High School, we're on remote, on location. They're trying to get prep sports back up and running. We'll see. You know what we'll do, Charlie? We'll see what happens.
We'll figure it out. We always figure it out. And this is a beautiful school and the facilities. And I actually called the Kirkwood athletic director a couple months back. I know the track was closed, but I want to get out here and do some laps on the track because it's a fantastic track.
Live read for Kirkwood High School. Martin and Marlow, remember to email, subscribe, get involved, support the sponsors, Kirkwood Pizzeria, Triad Bank, Marie de Villa, Senior Living. The hardest part of all these recordings, Charlie, is when we have to write a summation. You have to like a three sentence like paragraph. Hey, what'd you guys talk about? I'm supposed to file that. I'm like, I have no idea. We talked about nothing. To be fair.
Do you think people really make their decision on to listen by that couple paragraphs? Though, see, here's the thing. I enjoy doing this podcast, but I don't really listen to podcasts, so I never listen to it. I hope other people do, and maybe I will get into podcasts more. My wife is obsessed with podcasts. She listens every day. She has a podcast almost every day. She's excited when one drops Monday, one drops Wednesday, one drops Friday. I just haven't gotten into that yet.
And I'm guilty of that too. I love the whole idea. I love being part of it. We did an interview with Joe Buck the other day, and I said, hey, the podcast is going great. You got Charles Barkley, and before that you had A-Rod and all these big names, and he's talking about it. And then we were leaving. I was saying, God, if he says, have you listened? Like, I did. I listened early on. He had Bill Simmons, and I think I heard a little bit of A-Rod, but I haven't lately because I'm behind. I got a lot of things to do to get caught up on. But then you talk to somebody about their podcast, and then they'll say, oh, have you checked it out?
And look, I think there are people that love, if you have a car ride, if you like to work out. I like to work out with music as opposed to podcasts, so that's just my preference. But a lot of people do like listening to podcasts, and that's cool. I would just say this, anybody listening, if you have a podcast, if you tweet out a clip, if it's 30 seconds, a minute and a half, if it's a really good clip, I will watch and listen from Twitter. So I think that's a good way to get people into your podcast.
Did you see my interview the other day with the Colonel, the Vietnam Colonel, Jack Jackson? And we pulled a clip of how he could have died in Vietnam. His helicopter was shot down, and he retold that harrowing experience. That was the clip highlighted on Twitter. Now, what's worthy of that from this interview, I'm not sure yet. We'll figure it out.
I did see your clip. I haven't watched it yet, only because I had scheduled to watch it tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. All right, screw you to Chuck is how we'll end this show. The episode is over.